Hey, you guys. Welcome back to the second episode of my podcast. Welcome back to Podcast Mondays. And so far, been doing pretty good. Honestly, can't complain. Solid work. I'm enjoying everything, enjoying all the little aspects, little parts of my life, being grateful at every little twist and turn, regardless of what I'm going through. Just understanding that, you know what, it's a process and it's a plan and there's a higher power. And inshallah, it'll all work out. But I'm staying consistent with this podcast, really pushing out the episodes. I want to stay consistent with this. I want to build the community. I want to build a following when it comes to this, because I want to shed a little bit of light on some circumstances and situations that may not always be covered, unfortunately. And the only way that it can be is by talking about it. So if you guys want to learn more or support me personally, my Instagram is jjtm_MMA. That's my Instagram. I also am going to drop my Patreon, and my Patreon, now that's what I'm excited about to tell you guys. My Patreon, I'm going to focus on health, wellness, fitness videos, and also some diet and nutrition. And possibly, depending on how many people I can get to subscribe to a certain section, start including maybe some possible recommendations for supplementation. Just personally what works for me, and if it doesn't work for you, by all means, just let me know and we can do some research together and figure something out. But you have to subscribe to my Patreon. There's different tiers of it, so you can do whatever one, and you know what, depending on which tier you choose, that'll require a certain amount of dedication from me on my effort. In order to invest my time and effort into you, I need you to invest time and effort into me as well. And hopefully we can reciprocate that relationship. But let's dive right into episode 2. And the question that surprisingly came up was, what does it take to be an MMA fighter? That's a loaded question, because anybody can be an MMA fighter, honestly. I've seen people literally get offered professional fights who have never fought a day in their life. They've never fought a day in their life, and they're fighting their first professional fight against somebody who has 20 fights, 15 fights, whatever, something like that, something ridiculous. And that was to beef up their record or to pad up their record, right? And I mean, it is what it is, right? Just sometimes that happens in the sport. That's the low down and dirty part of it that not a lot of people enjoy at all, because you're taking somebody off the street and then offering them a professional fight. But at the same time, that person can always say no. So a fight is a fight, and you know what? At the end of the day, it boils down to what you as an athlete and what your coach feels most comfortable with. So what it takes to be an MMA fighter, in my opinion, is hard work, dedication, and focus. Hard work, dedication, focus. You have those three, I guarantee that you will make something out of yourself in this community. Because the MMA community is a very small community. It's a small group of people, especially, well, not necessarily small, but the thing is that it's all intertwined. You always constantly see people. There have been times where I've gone to Bellator events or Combate Americas events or just the Dragon House events, and there are people that I see there on every single event. And then I end up running into them somewhere else. That, or I may end up running into a matchmaker or a promoter here and there. And then I build a repertoire with them for future reference. So, I mean, it depends on what kind of MMA fighter you want to be. If you just want to be a fighter, go sign up at your local gym. Sign up at my gym. Train consistently for a minute. Express that you would like to become a fighter, and you just might get a fight. Maybe. It depends. You got to get ran through the ringer. Our team is our top level athletes. So that's a very exclusive group of people that my Sifu, he handpicks everybody who he allows inside of our gym, because that's our sanctuary. If you're not good for the culture there, we personally don't need you there. There is nothing personal about that. It's just a matter of, it needs to be like-minded individuals. Whenever we're all there, personally, I can speak for myself and from what other teammates have expressed to me, we're all there to succeed. We don't come there training, putting in our hard work, dedication, money, time, and effort to go fail. So if you honestly want to become a fighter, then I would say come join Dragon House. Get ran through the ringer. Train jiu-jitsu for 6 months to a year. See if you're any good at that. Wrestle. And then on stand-up nights, do some stand-up with the pro and amateur fighters. That's exactly what I had to do. That's what I did. And I enjoyed every second of it without the intention of becoming a fighter. I just enjoyed it because it was a nice workout and I was able to test my mettle and test my mind and test how far I was willing to take myself. Now, other people may not have to do that. Some people are natural born athletes and they can just hop into it, start learning, and they have a photographical memory, or they have a certain kind of way that they learn that just allows them to see something and then replicate it to where they don't need to drill. But I mean, the hard work, dedication, and focus, that will reflect in the latter parts of your career. Because it's easy. I've seen it so many times, where people just like, they come in, they train once or twice a week, and they get once or twice a week results 9 times out of 10. Dude, I've seen it. I've seen it with fighters, professional and amateur. I've seen them take some tough losses. Either fighters that I know or fighters that I don't know. I've seen people that give their all sometimes, and sometimes they still lose. But there have also been times where I've seen people give it all, everything, just 1,000% all in, and they get those 1,000% results because they left it all out there. They focused their mind and geared it towards success the best way that they knew how. And I would say that then the next level comes in. That comes in, how do you create good habits? Good habits can be created. It doesn't have to be something that's innate to you or something that friggin' you can learn. You can learn how to create good habits for yourself, whether that be through prayer, meditation, whatever venue you want to use for it, whether that's reading a spiritual book, writing, or whatever. Just get into it and start building that toughness, because at the end of the day, that's another layer. When you start tearing down bridges, mental bridges in your mind that are bad for you, like just negative thoughts, negative trains of thoughts, negative anything. It's a bridge that you have to destroy, and then when you destroy it, you have to build something up in its place. So if you want to destroy a bad habit that you have, replace it with a good habit. But you have to be geared towards success, period. So if you want to be an MMA fighter, you got to have hard work, dedication, and focus. And that will reflect in your training. You have to go all in all the time. And sometimes it is difficult. There are times where I personally have broke down in training because just mentally preparing for a fight, well, it wasn't breaking down because of the fight. It's the things that were going on in the background. And I was still so committed to what I do and still loved what I did so much that I looked past all of that negativity and went like, I'm going to turn this into something positive. Not only for myself, but for my family, my community, and the group of people that I'm around. Because I'm surrounded by positive people. So they know whenever I'm surrounded by a good group of people at my gym, fortunately enough. Different people from different aspects of life. From tech, I've seen one of our fighters, Brendan Famoy, he works in tech, and friggin' he's a Bellator fighter. He's fought on Bellator. So, I mean, just little things like that. We have like fighters in all stages of life, all different aspects, regardless of race, religion, culture, it doesn't matter. We have fighters from all across the planet. We have Jamaican athletes. We have Pan American Combat Sambo champions training at our gym from either Mongolia or Jamaica. We have world-class talent, access to world-class talent. We've had Olympians come through our gym and try to train, and they couldn't even keep the pace. D1 wrestlers consistently come through that door. I would say on average, my Sifu can verify this. At least one D1 wrestler comes through that door once every 2 to 3 months. At least once. At least once. Minimum, they're at a JUCO level of wrestling. Bare minimum. It's very rare that you see nobody with any, well, I mean, that's actually not true, because I've seen a lot of people also that didn't have any combat sports experience, and you know what? Like they make their MMA debut and they've done wonderfully for themselves. So I would also like to retract that, because it's all variant on your mind is the point. It depends on how sharp you are. And when it boils down to it, if you're not mentally sharp, you can't be physically sharp for a fight, because that's just how it boils down. You have to prepare yourself at every single point for success. If you're in a bad position, you have to reverse it to where now you're in a good position, and now you're being successful at what you do. I would say also another important aspect of being an MMA fighter is you have to be in the now. When you're in the moment, when you're in the zone, when you're in that, quote, flow state, you'll know it. Like, it isn't something that I can necessarily put into words. Sometimes your body's steaming hot and you're just focused in. Other times your body's it's cold as a rock and your mind is cold too and you're just focused in on the task at hand. So that's being in the now for me. Whenever you're in the now, you're taking things how they're being presented to you. And if that's in a fight, once you're in the cage and that cage door is locked, like you're definitely in the now in that moment. You're thinking about possible outcomes, how to counter, how to do this, how to do that. But the more you're in the now, the less you think. You're just in the moment. You're taking yourself and your ego and everything else out of the moment, and you're judging it based off of what's exactly in front of you. Just period. And I would say one of the most revelatory but also most awesome parts about this sport is I've seen people work hard regardless of the outcome. I've seen people win, I've seen people lose, I've seen people get draws that maybe they should have won or maybe they shouldn't have. And you know what? The outcome sometimes doesn't come out in your favor, but you always have to loop it back in. Not every successful person, not every millionaire or billionaire made $1 million or $1 billion in one shot. Majority of people that are of that status of people, they have failed before. So you can't be afraid of failure. Failure sometimes is an option that isn't necessarily presented to you, it's given to you. Because somebody else, especially in MMA, was just more focused and more driven at that point in time. Which boils down to it again. Sometimes you don't have to be the best fighter on the planet every single day. You just have to be the best fighter you can possibly be in that moment. You have to take in everything and turn all those nerves that are making you nervous. What if I get knocked out? What if I get choked out? What if this or that happens? Replace it with a good thought. Use all of that creative energy to meld something positive for yourself. You have to redirect it and make sure that you can gear yourself towards success. That way, you can start progressing. That's all that I really have to say about that one little aspect. I would say the next one that's important is you gotta be in the now. You have to. And in the now, I mean, in that moment, when you're fighting, you have to be ready for anything and everything that your opponent is throwing your way, and also yourself, the things that you will because sometimes during fights, some people give up terrible positions, and it's because mentally they weren't focused on trying to win. You have to have the will to win. It isn't just a matter of, oh, I would like to win. No, you have to have the will, the desire, the power in you to want to win regardless of what's going on. And regardless of what's going on can be whatever your opponent's doing. And in order to do that, you have to have, I would say personally, you have to have a pretty decently sized ego for that. And that's when you start getting into the understanding of the mind versus the ego. So whenever you're thinking of something and you're trying to constantly progress yourself forward, you got to ask yourself, is that my ego or is that my mind pushing me in that direction? Your mind can only come up with thoughts. Your ego attaches itself to what seems most likable according to you, whatever that criteria is. And you gotta eliminate the feelings. Like for real, especially in fighting, the more emotionalist you are, the better you perform, period. That's what I've seen out of top level athletes. That's what I've seen out of myself. That's what I've heard top level athletes consistently on either their podcast or whatever venue they use to speak about it. When they're in that quote unquote flow state, they're absolutely geared in and focused on what they can do. And it's because of that absolute confidence and belief in themselves and their ability. And the only reason why they have that confidence is because they put in the necessary time that's required to have that confidence. For example, as a businessman, if you, like, let's say somebody's opened up 10 businesses, all of them were thriving and successful. And then all of a sudden, somebody comes out of the woodworks, like every hater does, comes out of the woodworks and goes like, ah, man, he isn't going to do it this time around. Why couldn't he? He has a proven track record, good history. Everybody's making money. Everything's profitable. What's the problem? Why is somebody else throwing salt in his game? And it's because not everybody understands that aspect of the game. You have to be, unfortunately, MMA is a very selfish sport. And you have to be out for yourself. But it's knowing when you have to be out for yourself is what's either detrimental to people's career or it benefits them in a great way, because you are truly alone when you're locked in that cage with that other person, because it's between you, God, and that other person what's going to happen. That's it. And maybe the ref. Yeah, the ref too. But at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. Like, there aren't so many outside factors and maneuvers that you can do. No, it's just that is what it is. And the more you can understand that, and the more you wrap your mind around that a lot of things are just out of your control. I think personally, a lot of people would just greatly benefit in their lives if they just operated off of that common understanding that a lot of things sometimes are just out of your control. Just period. That's how it is. That's how it has to be, unfortunately. Also, another thing, I got one more question that I would like to answer as well. Projections for MMA in the Bay Area versus worldwide. Okay, so the MMA in the Bay Area is hot right now. Personally, I'm a part of the Dragon House MMA fight team, and I am surrounded by so many talented fighters. It's ridiculous. Professional all the way down to amateur fighters. Like, we have some of the top guys in California, like, period. And from what I've personally seen from that aspect, like, dude, our fighters are always fighting top ranked guys, period. And it's either we pull through with a dub, or somebody lost because of a little mistake. No, it's very rare if a Dragon House fighter goes in there and gets dusted. It doesn't happen. That's pretty much unheard of. Like, somebody beating a Dragon House fighter, that's the highlight of your career. That's what gets you that call. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like, I personally know that in the Bay Area right now, just based off of who I know, who I'm connected with, and things like that, like my coach, like, he's an awesome guy to just be around. You can absorb information just by surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you, more successful than you. You have to put yourself in positions to where, especially I would say in a fighter's case, a lot of fighters do not think, what am I going to do after MMA? I mean, they think about it, but they don't actually come up with a plan. There's a difference between thinking about something and coming up with a plan for it. Now, my personal plan is I would like to open up my own gym, and I'm studying on how to do that. I would also like to start having my own MMA show. I also am studying to do that, and it's because I'm surrounding myself with the kinds of people that already operate in that circle. And then I'm just adding that to my life, whatever else I want to do. I'm also a college student. I'm an MMA fighter. I also work. I have a whole bunch of other things. I do this podcast every Monday because I enjoy doing it for you guys. That's just my thing. I enjoy what I do, so I like to reveal all the little aspects of it that I can on the time that I do have. And you know what? Like, it's going to keep on coming. One more question. Let's see. What's the difference between the team aspect of MMA versus the sole individual aspect? That's a deep question. And thank you to whoever came up with that one. That one's really solid. The team aspect is really important. You have to surround yourself with the right people, not people that are buying into your ego, because that anybody can get a yes man. What you need in that point, especially if you're an MMA fighter, you need somebody who's going to keep you honest, who is also going to want to refine your technique with you, because they understand that hopefully, inshallah, if you win, the confidence and the ability that you'll walk away from that fight with is insurmountable. And if that person understands that, what they should be doing is helping you as much as possible, so that when you're done with your fight, or when they're done with theirs, if you're helping them, that you both can benefit. You both can benefit from the training. It's about how much you can improve each training session. Each training session matters. It isn't just one that everything starts clicking. No, it's consistency over time. How many hours you put in on the mat, how many hours you put in with your stand-up, how many hours you put in with your wrestling, how many hours you practice your jiu-jitsu ground and pound, your jiu-jitsu. There's so many aspects and layers to this lifestyle that it's ridiculous. There's never a time where an athlete can be like, I'm the best at just everything. No, they're specialists in this field. They're specialists. There are people that are high level at this in that one specific thing, and there's always somebody who's going to be better than you at that one little thing. So that's the beauty of grappling, stand-up. It's always constantly evolving and changing. Now, eventually you can stand atop the heat when it comes to high-level fighters. But when it comes to the individual sports on the jiu-jitsu level, the wrestling level, the kickboxing level, it's all different and it all varies depending on the sport. But the beauty about MMA is that it puts it all together. It's who's the best at putting it all together. So, if you think you have good stand-up and you want to go practice your stand-up with somebody who's only going to do stand-up, 9 times out of 10, if you're an MMA fighter and you fight a kickboxer and you use the kickboxing rules and everything like that, you just might not win. Unless you're really good and you're just a prodigy across all fields, which there's nothing wrong with that. No shade to anybody who is like that. Just personally, I believe I'm the best at what I do at putting it all together. Putting it all together, I think I'm pretty good at that. I am wonderful and amazing at that. And I proudly say that because I put in the time, work, effort, money, resources to be able to put myself in a situation where I do feel comfortable saying that. Because the hard work and dedication that I've put in is a span of years. Now, my work may not be as much, or you know what? No, it might not be as long as other people, but I've seen myself grow leaps and bounds ahead of people who are technically been training longer than me. And I've done certain things in my own mind to solidify my belief and my confidence in myself. So, I mean, that's all that I really wanted to say. Episode 2 of the podcast is done now. And hopefully, inshallah, episode 3 is coming soon next week on Monday. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, please. That goes a long way. Also, I created my Patreon page, which I'm super excited about because now I'm offering exclusive content depending on your tier, ranging from diet, exercise, health, and wellness. And then when you get to the bottom tier, you start talking about supplementation, things like that. I'm going to come out with videos specifically on those aspects of my life, and I'm just telling people what I'm doing. That's it. You're subscribing to a lifestyle. It isn't necessarily just me. I'm showing you how I do my own personal things. And personally, I know that it works because at one point in my life, I was almost 300 pounds. And I cut down to the lowest that I've ever been, which is 150.6. And it's still ongoing. And eventually, I want to become a featherweight fighter too. But I mean, that takes time, effort, and dedication and study. So when it comes to that aspect, definitely support me on Patreon. I'll put the link in the bio. If you're interested in learning about those aspects of my life, it's gonna cost, unfortunately, because I have to build this platform. I need camera equipment. I need a whole bunch of things so that I can produce even better content for you guys. So please sign up on Patreon, support me in what I do, and that way I can give you guys even better and more amazing and awesome content. My Instagram is jjtm_MMA. My business email is jumah.muhmmad@gmail.com. Shout out to my fight sponsor, the Whitlock team. He's always awesome, always comes through, always ahead of the curve when it comes to new designs, when it comes to the MMA gear and stuff like that. Check him out if you're a fighter and you're thinking about possible sponsorships opportunities. He's always sponsoring fighters. He's always ready to go. Check him out. You just have to be willing to put yourself out there, honestly. Anybody who wants to promote your business on my podcast, let me know. If anybody has any sponsors, if any sponsors are watching this video, please hit me up. That way I can produce even better content and promote your business on my venue that I'm creating. So, inshallah, you guys, I appreciate everything. You guys have an awesome day. Stay active, stay healthy, and inshallah, let's all make it out of this. Peace.